In loving memory of David H. Keating, born March 17, 1939, passed away May 4, 2019. Quote, "Please remember me setting up tea times at Birch Ridge Golf Course, setting out decoys on the duck ponds across the inlet, and busy tying lines to catch Kenai River salmon." David Harold Keating, 80 years of age, passed away at home surrounded by family after a long, courageous battle with pancreatic cancer. Daughter Kelly's favorite quote of her dad's is, "Leave everything you touch better than you found it." Dave certainly did that in his life. Some of Dave's favorite pastimes included watching the Seattle Seahawks, fishing on the Kenai River, duck hunting, traveling, and playing golf. While he enjoyed all these things, his true passion was his family. He always remembered birthdays and anniversaries and sent heartfelt cards to family members on their special day. Dave loved with all his heart and was a dear friend to many. He impacted, influenced, and inspired so many as a mentor, leader, and a father figure. He also had a great sense of humor and was known for his ability to tell a good story. Dave will be lovingly remembered by his wife of 25 years, Sharon, and his children, Kevin, Kim, David, Kelly, Ryan, Melanie, and Trina. Dave will also be forever remembered by his 18 grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren, and 9 nieces and nephews. I'm Chris Story, and it's my honor to remember our friend, your friend, David H. Keating. He was indeed a mentor to many, including myself, from afar. And I will miss Dave, as will so many. And a lot of his Realtor family wanted to say something, and a few of them had an opportunity to say that here and now, in memory of Dave Keating.
This is Chris Huff. I work at Catch My Play Title in Homer and Stewart Title of the Kenai Peninsula in Soldotna. My wife and I have been in the business for a really long time, and we've always enjoyed working with Dave. The thing I remember most is whenever you went over to see him, for business, it always started with a personal connection. He always, asked you about the family or what you're doing. With my family and his, it was usually talking about the Seahawks. So we always talked about how their season was looking, how the last season was looking, how maybe next season's going to look, and had lots of good personal interaction before we ever even talked about business.
Hi, this is Deborah Hensley. Well, I wanted to share a little bit about my feelings of Dave Keating. I've known Dave since I was actually a child. A lot of people don't know that, but Kelly, his daughter, and I, we were actually very good friends in high school, and probably before high school, I think we were younger. So we would hang out and have sleepovers and things of that nature. So I got to know Dave on a personal level back as a young adult before I even got into real estate. And so I started real estate in 2002, and Dave's daughter, Kelly, she would come by my house and convince me I needed to do real estate because I think she'd only been doing it a year. And when I did decide to do real estate, obviously there was no one else I wanted to work with than Dave and Kelly because they were like family to me. So when I say that Dave was like a father to me, he really, really was. And I think back over the 15 years that I worked with him, he always had time for me, no matter what. And I can't even imagine how busy he was as long as he'd been in the industry to always have time for me when I had a small question or if I had a really important file that needed help. He was just a very giving and kind and patient person. At that time in his life, he was just very patient, and he's made a huge impact on me in real estate. I have a little story. At some point working with Dave, he must have called me into his office to talk over one of my files. And the note he had given me said, I need to talk to you in my office, and he signed it broker. Well, when I saw him after our meeting, out of respect, I called him broker, and something quickly happened and he called me agent, which doesn't seem like much now, but we used to be agents then. Now we're licensees. The funny part is what that small conversation that day carried over for 10 years. And every time I saw him, I called him broker and he always called me agent. And it was our little inside story, even in the last few months that he was here with us this year. As him and I would message each other, I would always call him broker and he would sign off calling me agent. So I know people in the office always wondered, why does she keep calling him broker? And it just started out of respect the first day, but it was our little inside story, and it was just made us smile every time. So he was definitely a big impact on me, and definitely felt like a father as well. So it's very hard to imagine him not here, but I remember those great times.
This is Eric Watkins, and just wanted to say about Dave Keating. He's been a pioneer and a leader in our real estate industry for way longer than I've been around there. Yeah, really looked up to Dave, and he really set the pace and set the tone for real estate here on the Kenai Peninsula, which is so unique, more unique than anywhere in the world. So really am going to miss a legend in real estate, Dave Keating.
This is Dave Summers. I met Dave through service, the Alaska Association of Realtors, probably back in 1990 or 91. I met him as I got involved with state leadership, and he had been involved, and coming from a small town, he'd been processed again, and shortly, somewhere in the 90s, he was serving as president again of the local association while I was on leadership at AAR, and we got to travel a lot together and dine a lot together, and I'll tell you, his dedication and work in the industry inspired me to continue on, and in both the volunteer work with the association, but also in opening my own office later on. Dave's the kind of guy, if you ever needed help or advice, he was always there and willing to share his experiences. And I'll tell you, that helped a lot of people in the Realtor family, not just in his own office, but in the association statewide. Anybody he met, he was able to help out and get him moving in the right direction. I remember he loaned me he told me to come down and borrow his little shack on the Kenai one time, and invited my wife and our son Jake down to fish there, and his shack turned out to be a pretty darn nice place right on the Kenai River. I sat there and opened his, and not used to salmon fishing, I opened up his shed there and found all sorts of gear, and I think I'd thrown about $200 or $300 of stuff away before I figured out how to tie my knots properly. And I spent the rest of the trip down at the bait shop buying all the gear to replace that stuff with. Dave and Sharon were great people to be around, and they inspired everybody that they talked to. I'm gonna miss the guy. He was one of the good guys.
I'm Stacy Krause. I met Dave Keating years before I became a licensed real estate agent, but I remember the day that Dave handed me my license in the office. The first thing that he said to me was, "Now go get your CRS designation." And that was really the framework of what Dave was about: professionalism, education, mentorship. He always led by example. And he did that through going to convention every year, participating in RPAC, encouraging the office to participate in all of those things as well. He really didn't ask you to go to convention. He said, "Have you made your ticket yet for convention?" So it was just an expectation, and that's how he set the bar. Those are some of the things that I loved about his mentorship, and he was definitely my mentor. Dave was able to create in the office a very family environment, but still at the same time maintain the control of being in charge and the boss and garnering that respect, which is something that I hope that I've emulated in my own office. It's definitely what I strive towards. I always felt like Dave wasn't training agents in his office. He was training leaders for our industry. When I came into Dave's life, in that part of his career, I think it was more settled. And I think if you've been in the industry for a long time, you kind of know what I'm talking about, because Dave had been the state president and multiple times a local president, helped create our MLS, always was very thoughtful about the growth of our industry and making any big changes. He took a lot of time to digest it before he gave his opinion on where we were going. You can see proof of the fact that Dave was creating leaders in his office by just how many other licensees left to start their own brokerages. I hope that every day what I reflect in my office is the same mentorship that Dave gave me, because that's the environment I want to create.
Hi, my name is Peggy Ann McConaughey. I'm a realtor in Alaska, and I'd like to tell you just a little bit about my first meeting with Dave Keating. It was a winter day. I was on my way for my first board meeting with the Alaska Association of Realtors. I hadn't been in the business long. I was newly elected as the president of then the Juneau Board of Realtors, and walking into a situation where there were a lot of big people I hadn't met. Everybody seemed to know each other. And I walked in, and the first person who walked up to me just as I walked into the door was Dave Keating, who introduced himself to me and said, "Hi, my name is Dave Keating. This is who I am. This is how long I've been on the board. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to just ask me." And I said, "Thank you. This is wonderful. Do you mind if I sit by you for the meeting?" And he was wonderful. That was my first opportunity to see how kind, how interested he was in everyone else, and how helpful he was to someone who didn't have a lot of experience dealing with at that time, the Realtor Association on the state level. And he was wonderful. He answered all my silly questions. He spent time with me, explaining some of the background to the issues that we were going to be discussing. And it made my first meeting at the Alaska Association of Realtors board meeting a pleasant experience, a definite pleasant experience. From then on in, every single time I went to any sort of meeting or state convention, I was always seeking out Dave and his wife. Wonderful people, kind, very what I call old school. My broker at that time was old school and knew Dave Keating well. And, my broker had told me he was a wonderful guy. And I believed it after I met Dave. He had a wealth of knowledge. If I at any time ever had any question of what's going on within the state, even personally, if something was going on that I needed to know as far as real estate, Dave was the go-to guy, because he was always there to listen to what I was going to ask and to give me intelligent, calm, cool, and collected answers to whatever those questions are. And he was also never afraid to say, not sure how to answer that one. That was just the kind of guy Dave was. We became friends so that every single time I went to an Alaska Association of Realtors convention, he was one of the people I sought out to make sure I could find out how he was doing, what was going on with him, and we could talk about, what's been going on in the intervening time when we worked together. Dave Keating was, as some people call, solid, absolutely solid, and that's the kind of friend that you want. And that's the kind of friend he was.
Hi, this is Michael Draghi with Century 21 Realty Solutions. Dave Keating was an exceptional man, and he was very generous and kind to me and trusted me with the legacy of his Freedom Realty Company. We negotiated a purchase in March of 2013, and Dave probably trusted me more than was required, but he really was a great mentor to me as well. But I'll recount one story that I told at his 25th wedding anniversary and vow renewal. One day during negotiations to buy his company, we were very close to the end, and I was going through a lot of turmoil, not only with the acquisition of his company, but personally, and it was just an emotional time. And he sensed that I was pretty stressed out, and he said, "Hey, Michael, let's take a ride over to the Kenai office." So we were driving on the spur highway from Soldotna to Kenai, and I just was kind of choked up, and I didn't have a lot of help in the negotiations. And I said, "I wish my dad were here." He's who I always went to for advice, and he had passed away about 6 years prior. Dave reached over and he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Your dad's here, and he did a great job. Just keep doing what you're doing and have faith." And it was just such an emotional moment. I broke down and cried. And Dave and I really bonded at that moment, and were very, very close friends since. I will miss him. I will miss hearing his voice, seeing his face. I'll miss playing golf with him at Birch Ridge. And I will always honor his legacy and treasured him. Dave Keating was one in a million.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace shall lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. When we